I saw this young cocky boy. Well, he was a young man. He was like 17, maybe even 18. Well, he looked young, and he was one little arrogant motherfucker, man. He was just strutting around. He was kind of muscular. Showing off a little bit, real loud and brash. Uh, and I remember being that way to a certain degree, not so conspicuous, but uh, I was. Every young person has some of that in them. Uh, you look at animals of all kinds, especially mammals. Uh, the young always jump around and prance around, full of energy, uh, ex- discovering this new reality called life, and very exuberant. And that's when I see a cocky young man. That's what I see. Person full of life. Now they can take it too far and be an asshole about it, but sometimes that's good. It's good to be an asshole sometimes. Uh, Not meaning in a derogatory sense, but in a sense that you're expressive. You say what you want. You mean what you say, and people are not going to like everything you say. So when I see a young man being arrogant and cocky, I don't look at him condescendingly. Just look at this cocky motherfucker. I look at it as, do you, man? Hell yeah. You know, get yours. Get it now, because your youth and all that enthusiasm you're showing right now, all that energy, that newness, you won't have that forever. No, none of us do. It fades away with time and age and loss of ideals, loss of idealisms that you had when you were young. Uh, so being young is okay. They're they're kind of ignorant, but ignorance is bliss. Sometimes they don't know uh, the horrors of life to the degree that they will if they continue living. They'll they'll discover event by event, year by year, uh, incident after incident. It has a cumulative effect, and it will show them that, hey, life can be kind of difficult. Now, it takes some longer than others, but eventually, everybody see the infertility of, uh, I guess, thinking that you're the shit. In the world, the whole solar system evolves around you. They'll lose that. Yeah, life will put its foot in their ass at some point, and then that's called maturity. But the thing I wanted to just talk about for a second, one of the things is suffering. You know, suffering. Are you suffering to some degree or another? Most of us are. I suffer. Quite a bit in my own way that nobody else can suffer for me. And it sometimes can be painful. But let me tell you what I think of suffering. When when I'm not suffering too much and oh shit, when it slackens up, what can I get from it? And why is that a mechanism that we all have? Like I have to start working out here again uh, in the coming weeks. And, so I can look my best during the summer and take all these hot winter clothes off and, preserve my health and everything as well, but and my strength. But One thing that I know that I can expect is the soreness after workouts. Your muscles ache and they burn while you're working out, and they ache afterward, sometimes for days. You know, but why do so many guys go through that? So why do so many athletes do that? It's because they have an objective of uh, achieving something through that sacrifice of suffering. A championship or uh, athletic prowess, something that they're benefiting from it. Now if I take that notion and apply it to regular life and think about it in realistic philosophical terms, suffering is not all bad. Suffering can be good. Suffering can be a good thing. And suffering can be of great value and benefit to a person's life, especially a young person, uh, or anybody really. But it depends on your outlook. If you have a positive outlook about your suffering, then some magical things could happen for you. Uh, if not during the suffering, definitely once that thing that was causing you to suffer is resolved, you can bring out with that a lot of wisdom and knowledge and a whole new outlook that you didn't have before you went through your pain and your suffering. You know that this summer I'm going to go and lift a lot of weights and eat right, sacrifice. Eating a few of the things that I eat. I don't eat too bad, but sacrifice a few of the simple pleasures and work out, get sore, do it again later, shortly afterward. Uh, I expect something from that. I expect, you know, to be healthier, to feel fitter, and then the results should keep going as I continue to work out. But when you're going through suffering of a mental kind or a spiritual kind, shouldn't you expect the same thing? I mean, shouldn't it be the same thing? Should really? It should be the same. It is the same thing. It's just that a lot of times our expectations and our anticipation of it, or our choice to go through it, didn't, it wasn't up to us. We choose to go work out in a gym, but we don't choose to like have car accidents and or break our legs or become ill uh, with some illness, long lasting chronic illness or something. We don't expect that. We don't anticipate it. We don't really want it. Hell no. So I think that that's the only difference. One we want, which is like getting fit or you know achieving some mastery level at something, and one we don't want, getting sick or which causes us suffering, and getting divorced, which causes us suffering. You know, injury, the loss of loved ones, or failure. That's something that you wanted. So maybe if we change our outlook and look at it a different way. As a MGTOW, there's a certain element of suffering in that as well. Think about it. Young MGTOWs, uh, I've watched the world change. I've, I've seen women change from one state, a more desirable state, to another state, at least a less desirable state, the current state of a lot of women. Not all, but a vast majority. Friendships go from a beneficial and positive state. They still do now. It's just that they're not as deep, I don't think. as they used to be because people move around a lot more. And back when I was younger, people stayed in one place for decades, and we really knew people. Now people move around all the time, so it's hard to have really know a person. So friendships have changed. Relationships with women have changed. Women themselves have changed. Have changed. I'm old enough to have gone through health issues, loss of loved ones, tragically, lots and lots of things, failures, whether business wise, creative wise, relationship wise, money wise. Those along with successes, of course, but it's the failures that you go through the suffering, and that's the topic of the video. So let's look at the failures and suffering and illness and all those things that young man, that cocky young man I was talking about earlier. If he lives long enough, he will face his allotment of his suffering. Looking back at the world and watching it change and say, wow, my country is fucked up now. It used to be, maybe I just didn't know it was fucked up when I was younger, but like I said, ignorance is bliss. And the older I get, the more I know. I see the blinders come off, And one of the cool things about getting older, testosterone, the drive is not, animalistic like it was when you were younger. One of the benefits of getting older, which is why older people are supposed to be more wiser, is, as a man, I don't think with my dick so much like I used to. I don't think with my ego, through my ego, as much as I used to. That shit is a thing of the past, my ego. Because those things are like paper thin. One day I'm the shit, motherfucker. I'm the main. And the next day it's like, oh, Lordy Lord. What is I gonna do now? So egos are paper thin, man. So I don't even, mine is just like over in a box somewhere. I don't even fuck with it. I don't have a need for it right now. Because a lot of times it stops you from thinking, you know. And another thing, you get older, man, and your sex drive tapers off some. I won't say it's gone. No, hell no. But I would say that it is not like it was when you were in your 20s. Hell, not even in your 30s. When you get close to 50. But you still you. It's just not as that insane drive that it was before. So you stop thinking that way now. You start thinking with this a lot more than the little head. And there's a great benefit to that. You start to see your suffering. If you're a mature person, if you're a mature man, not some immature son of a bitch who just doesn't think, doesn't have critical thinking faculties developed in him whatsoever. Like a TV kind of dude, idiot kind of dude. There are some real ones walking around. So I'm not talking about that kind of guy. I'm talking about a normal, the general man. As he gets older, he should start to put his suffering in perspective and realize that when you suffer, suffering is a transition. It's transitioning from one state to the next state. Now, that movement of the transition, that flip over, that's the suffering part. It's like you have to go through the fire to be purified almost. Everything is that way, really. You have to go through grills and grills and drills of football practice to get to be a better player and shine on a football field, and you have to work out really hard to get in a certain physique that you want, get in a certain shape that you want. That suffering part. You have to study really hard and sacrifice all kind of hanging out when you want to succeed in academics. You want to succeed in work, you have to go the extra mile and work the extra hours. It's a sacrifice, and it's a form of suffering because you're really not you're doing it not because you really want to do it a lot of times, but you expect something better at the tail end of your suffering. Benefits, gains. Well, I say it's the same thing with all suffering. You know, after a long marriage, you get a divorce. There's some suffering to the loss of that family. That full time spent with your children. Uh, the economic ramifications, if you're a man, you know, you got to consider all of that for a long time. Sometimes, if you have young children, you have to support them for many, many years. With the threat of jail hanging over your head, no matter what circumstances you're going through, you got to pay that money, even if you don't have a house to stay in or it accumulates, and at some point they can come get you. Well, that's some heavy shit for a man. Or you lose a loved one. They're shot down, they die, car accident, just suddenly, just like that. There's a great deal of suffering, things unsaid. But it's all the same, really. You lose your marriage, or you get sick, or you lose a loved one. You go through that pain. What do you gain from that? You gain a heck of a lot of experience of life. And you've seen that. If you get through it, you know how to get through it again and again and again and again. So it gives you strength. Like that old spiritual saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's what suffering is. That's what all suffering is. Now, as a young MGTOW, if you're suffering, trying to adjust to a different way of looking at the world than many around you are looking at the world and viewing the world and expressing themselves in it, you're looking at it totally different. The MGTOW way, and you're feeling lonely sometimes, and you're questioning your decision, about relationships or whatever it is that you're trying to change. You don't want to be a corporate drone, whatever it is. If you made the decision not to do those things, because that will cause you suffering, which was the less of two evils? The suffering that comes with doing something that you don't want to do, or the suffering that comes with the temporary suffering that comes with something you want to do or get past. So if you don't want to be a corporate drone, there's going to be some suffering in that until you transition over to being an entrepreneur. You're self-employed. If you get sick, one thing, death will relieve your suffering. So why worry about death? Because all of us going to die. You'll just probably die earlier. If you don't get sick and get better, you'll know that you can go through illness and come out of it strong. You'll be rejuvenated in life. Wow, man, I just came out of that. I'm not going to take life for granted anymore. Same with relationships or, relationships. Not just with women, but with your children, your friends. Wow, man, I missed that dude. He was my best friend, man. Now that we back in contact, I'm gonna try to kind of touch on being in contact with him. Call him every quarter or so, just to keep in contact with him. Now that I got his number, you learn your lesson. You suffered by missing that friend, even if it was just a little bit. You still missed him. So, all suffering is the opportunity for growth and for self enhancement. It's never should be a missed opportunity. So if you feel any pain, any stress in your life, try to look at the stress differently, and it will become less stressful, I think. Look at this stress as changing it around and say, oh, I'm going through this suffering right now because I'm supposed to go through this transition. It's a normal thing that I'm going through. Suffering is normal. It's a transition, man. Whatever it is, it's a transition. Whatever pain you're going through, whether it's from growing from young to old, you know, or trying to lose weight, or trying to heal yourself, your body and your mind, and how hard it is. The struggle is the suffering. But afterward, if it doesn't kill you, you should be strong as hell, man. A lot stronger than and wiser than what you were before you suffered. So there's beauty in suffering, there's beauty in everything. I like to think of things as I like to see things that people tell me I should think of it this way and just question it. Why do I that's not even, and most of the time you'll find that a lot so many of the things that people believe in and just follow cliche like and just, adhere to just it's completely insane. It's bullshit. It don't make any sense. It's sometimes become like unnatural. I wish I had a time machine so I can go back and just visit some primitive people, not the ones that's going to eat me and shit, because I had to shoot them motherfuckers. But I'm talking about the ones where I can just go observe, you know, and understand. I bet you they had a totally different view of suffering. I bet it was more like what I'm saying, that suffering is natural, part of nature, and all things go through it, great and small. So whenever you're suffering, uh, find the beauty in it. Say, what can I get from this suffering? What's the lesson in this? Wow, that's going to be a jackpot in it if you can find it. You find it, your suffering will become less. And when this issue is done and dealt with, or fixed, or resolved, you're left with this treasure of information about yourself. What you be about than anything else. Trust me on that. Trust me. Thank you. Thank you.